Hi everyone, I'm Eric Woodall, Producing Artistic Director of North Carolina Theater. On behalf of our President and CEO, Elizabeth Doran, welcome to Backstage at NCT. We want to give you a backstage look at how productions get made. At North Carolina Theater, we make our own professional Broadway-caliber shows right here in Raleigh. So what you see when you attend an NCT production at Raleigh's Duke Energy Center for the Performing Arts is a production that has been rehearsed and put together right here. So how does a production get made? What are the steps that have been taken before you sit down to watch one of our shows? What's happening behind the scenes while you are watching? So many of the artisans who make a show come together you never get to see. So we thought this Backstage series would be a fascinating and educational way to look at some of these integral jobs which are imperative when bringing a show to life. And although nothing can replace live theater, on each episode we will be bringing you a special performance for you to enjoy. So take a walk behind the curtain with us and enjoy this look backstage at NCT. On this episode, we want to explore hair and wig design and supervision for a professional theater production. Why is it important to have quality wigs in a show? How are hairstyles decided upon and implemented? At North Carolina Theater, we have worked with some incredible artists, both from our local area as well as from Broadway. In recent years, we've collaborated with Liz Prince, Bronwyn Frank, Lisa Acevedo, Roxanne DeLuna, and Patty Del Sordo, to name a few. The hair and wig artist we get to sit down with today is Angella Fraser. A native of Jamaica and a current North Carolina resident, Angella is the owner and creative director of Rhythm Wigs. At NCT, she has worked with hair and wigs on several of our productions. So to talk with us about hair and wig design and supervision, we welcome Angella Fraser. Angella, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Like I was saying in the introduction, we have been so fortunate to have some incredible wig designers and supervisors, technicians with us at NCT, and you are among those incredible folks who we've been blessed to have with us. Just to jump right in, what is a wig designer, a wig hair designer, or a supervisor or technician on a big production like we do at NCT?
So a wig designer starts way at the beginning. They work with the costume designer, with the director. They're thinking about the period of the play, all of the things that would make the actors look their best. And then they actually make the wigs. Wig making is an incredible art form. Some wigs take 60, 70, 80 hours to make.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand or know, that at North Carolina Theater we put a lot of importance in the way wig and hair design looks on stage. And so to have really good quality wigs, they are made, and oftentimes the wigs in our shows have been made for the performers.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how does that happen or go about? There are fittings involved?
There's fittings involved. We actually take a form. So you actually have to get a shape of the actor's head, and their hairline is the most important. And then there is a process called ventilating, and that is where you hook each strand of hair into very delicate lace.
Each strand? Each
strand of hair into very delicate lace. And that is what makes the wigs look so incredible. The audience, it just transforms the actor.
Because one of the things it does with the lace front and weaving it in delicately around here and here, it looks like a person's real hairline, which is different than wigs we might just buy for Halloween or something that just have a really hard line there.
Absolutely. And when we're taking the mold, if you will, of the actor's head, we're thinking about their hairline. We actually kind of sketch it out so that when the ventilating is done, we know exactly where their natural hairline comes.
And we're wearing microphones right now, and obviously in big musicals that we do, actors are wearing microphones. How does that play a part with the wigs that people wear?
Well, there's a whole process for prepping the hair before the wig goes on.
Tell us what that's like.
So it varies depending on the hair of the person, of the actor, yeah. But typically it is putting a pin set, so use bobby pins to do the swirl and have the hair be as flat as possible.
Their natural hair.
Their natural hair, exactly, as flat as possible. Some people don't have too much hair, so we have techniques that we use to make sure that the wig stays in place.
Like I would have to have like crazy glue.
We have things for you, yeah. And then there's a wig cap that goes on over that. And then we do the microphone. So we place the microphone. It's actually usually lives right under the wig.
So the whole pack of the microphone,
Yeah.
an actor is walking around with that on stage.
Absolutely.
I think that's something folks in the audience don't know.
Yeah, we actually have to swirl it right here. We bring the microphone down right here.
So when they sing, it's so present.
Exactly, and it doesn't show. So we have to make sure that it's placed so that it's not an obvious thing kind of dangling down here.
Yes.
A lot of the cording is here, and the mic is either right back here or on the clothing in the back.
Goodness gracious.
Yes.
And why do you think in a big musical it's important to have wigs?
Yeah.
Because so often we do. I think a lot of people would say, well, can't they just do the hair that they have? Or
Yeah, good question. So to me, a wig caps off the entire, it's a part of the costume, and that's why it has to be involved way in the beginning.
With the design.
Yeah, with the design. We work with the costumers when we're preparing for production, and the wig just kind of sets everything off. It's when you kind of step into the full character of the piece, and I think that's what hair does. It's always kind of that crowning of anyone who wears one.
So Angella, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to be here right now and be a part of theater?
What a story. So after emigrating from Jamaica, I moved to Brooklyn, and I moved to Bed-Stuy, and I went to Pratt Institute and studied art there for several summers. And I auditioned for the High School of Music and Performing Arts. That's the high school that the film Fame was based on.
Oh, yeah.
Fame.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so I got into that high school, and shortly after that, I got into one of the technical high schools, Brooklyn Technical High School. And that is the one that my parents told me I had to go to. My brother was going there. It was really a wonderful high school, had a great experience. But that kind of changed the trajectory. After that, I went to University of Pennsylvania, got an engineering degree there, and then I went into computer science. So I've been in the tech sector for 30 years or so.
Amazing.
4 years ago, I left tech. I immediately went to beauty school. And
you followed your heart.
I followed my heart. And it was just time for me to get back to using my hands. I really just loved that. And I never stopped, but I wanted it to be kind of central to what I did. And so I went to beauty school. I became a licensed natural hair care specialist. And I started a company called Rhythm Wigs. And so that's where I was. And a dear friend, Amy Brown, who works in theater, has worked in theater a long time. She needed someone to sub. She asked if I was available. I went, and that's where it all started. And
we say the theater bug bit.
The theater, it completely bit, and I've just been kind of progressing since then. Yeah.
You've had some amazing experiences doing theater and doing hair and wig, and you've worked with some incredible people. And what have some of those experiences been like?
Working with amazing wig designers and supervisors it really has made the difference for me. One that I'll call out in particular is Liz Prinz. She's up in New York.
Yes.
And she came, we worked on Annie together. That was our first one. And as you know, before we go to the theater, we're actually down in the conservatory prepping everything, right? So weeks in advance, we prep the wigs, we do all of the curling and any coloring, anything that, there still might be some detailed differences that we have to do to the wigs. And so there is one situation that I'd love to tell you about with Liz.
Sure, yes.
So we were here by ourselves late one Saturday, And she was telling me about an experience she had in New York working with an African-American actor who was very particular about their hair. And as we just talked about, the hair design is really important. So the wig designer really has to be the one who decides what the actor's hair should look like. But there was some tension between her and the actor. And so she was talking to me about that and just really trying to get a perspective on why that might be so. And I really kind of told her about some of the history of Black people and our hair. There's oftentimes a lot of people making decisions for us about what our hair should look like, what it should be. We're often in spaces where people don't know how to do our hair, even professionals. And so there's kind of there's some tension that develops around that. And so just talking to her about some of the history, there were times when there were laws about us covering our hair back in the 1700s. So I think I just gave her perspective, and I was so really just incredibly proud of Liz for going into that space with me and being very open to hearing some of what I had to teach her. Now, she's the wig designer. She's doing a lot of teaching me, but I think it's always wonderful when the teacher is open to what the student has to share.
I love that story. I had not heard that, but I think that is amazing because then on the close to the next show was a production we did of Having Our Say, which featured two African-American actors, and Liz worked on that, and you worked on that together. And so that's amazing that you began that conversation. And then how did that play out then with designing wigs for African-American ladies? And what was that next step like for you both?
Well, the first thing I'll say is Liz actually requested that I be supervisor in that production.
I do know that. Yes, she did.
And that was my first supervisory role.
Yes.
It was just really confirmation for me that this really, to me, she's one of the best wig designers out there.
She works nonstop on Broadway.
Incredible.
We get her down here whenever we can.
Incredible.
Yes.
So it really said a lot about how I had grown for her to actually request that I be on that production.
And weren't you telling me you heard from Liz not too long ago?
I sure did. So Liz, after we had that conversation, I just felt like there was this very special connection with us. And she sent me a text not too long ago. I'd like to read it if I could.
Absolutely.
So it says, I've been thinking of you and your family these past few days, wondering how you're dealing with the recent events. Hope you're all safe. I also wanted to say thank you for creating a safe place for me as a white woman to have the conversation I've had with you as a Black woman. It is something I carry with me always and encourage others to do so. So that just means so much to me, not only because of what Liz and I had, but that she's pushing it forward. And the whole idea of allyship is so important right now. We can't do this by ourselves. Our voices are not loud enough sometimes. And so Liz taking the time to do this meant so much to me. And so I always kind of keep it and refer back to it.
So on Having Our Say, you had the amazing Gail Turner and Lakeisha Coffey, who were the actresses starring in that show. And I just, again, I find it incredible and important that you had that conversation with Liz and that you were a part of educating her. And then could also be such an amazing representative as an African-American artist, but working with these African-American wigs. So that's fantastic.
So another kind of really exciting part of that opportunity is that Having Our Say is a story that I remember hearing about when I was in Brooklyn. When I immigrated from Jamaica, I lived in Brooklyn for many years. And I remember when that story became known and when the book about the Delaney sisters and their family, And so it was completely familiar to me. And so it was just this beautiful kind of moment where Liz said, this play is coming up, I'd like you to work on it. I was like, that one? That is the one? And yeah, so the actors, just beautiful people. I'm still in touch with them on Instagram. We're always kind of checking in with each other. And just that story, I felt that being a part of that entire production, it just gets me choked up even now, because it's just a beautiful story of the history of that family. They're centered here in North Carolina,
right.
St. Augustine's.
Yes.
It's just a beautiful story that I was a part of. And every night it was just so special. My sister, actually, she's a professor at UVA. She drove down from Charlottesville for one day just to see me be a part of that.
That's
because
fantastic.
Our mother just would have been so excited for me.
I love that. I love that. Well, and isn't that why we're in the theater?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
to be a part of experiences like that.
And I think too that being in theater and being working together so closely in intense situations, you do develop connections with people. You know, it's theater is intense. It is. You have to depend on each other. You have to know, it's not only knowing your role, but you have to know what everyone else is doing. And so there is a kinship that's developed. And I know some people think about actors and being divas and all of that. Backstage,
There's no time for any of that backstage.
No time for
I don't
any
care
of that.
what you are later on, but back there, you've got to be together. Because I've seen you at work with, you know, backstage and doing what audiences may not realize. We have wig changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we call them fast wig changes.
Fast wig changes,
So
right.
like in Annie, it was an example of, I think people know the iconic moment. Oftentimes Annie has sort of straight red hair,
Right,
and then
right.
she comes down the steps and she's got curly red hair.
Right,
and,
right.
So were you a part of that change, or?
Not that change, but
But you did other ones.
Kinky Boots.
Yes.
There were about 40 plus wigs in Kinky Boots, and several actors had 4 or 5 wig changes. Many of those happened backstage. In two seconds, we had to take off a wig, put on a wig, and we're doing that while the costume.
As costumes are going on, you're plopping wigs on their head.
So
Right.
we have to be really coordinated, right? So right after the blouse goes over the head, I have to be there with the wig. You have to know when there are going to be quick changes, because depending on when the wig has to come off, that determines how many pins you put in it. You have to know when actors are going to be flipping. That determines how many pins you put in it, because you don't want any wig to fly off while people are doing things. So it's very involved.
It really is, and not to mention very little light sometimes
Yeah.
back there. But it's also one of the reasons we're doing this series to highlight the amazing backstage efforts is, you know, unfortunately, it's one of the reasons that it's going to take a while for us to get back up on our feet fully, because when you talk about 3 or 4 people putting on costumes and putting on wigs and that kind of intimacy and quickness, it's going to be a little while before we're able to get back to doing it in that same way. So we're all brainstorming new ways to do it.
And this is one of them.
And this is one
amazing.
of them.
Yeah. I love that you are doing this, giving exposure to what happens behind the scenes. I think when people come backstage, they see some of that, and it's great that you're sharing it with a wider audience. I love it.
Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Here to share his incredible talent with us is North Carolina native John Arthur Greene. John Arthur was a part of the North Carolina Theater's Summer Theater Art School, and he participated in many productions through the years at the NCT Youth Program and on our main stage at NCT. John Arthur has been in 5 Broadway shows, including West Side Story, Matilda, School of Rock, Tootsie, and currently Company. We are so happy to have him back home with us for a bit. Please enjoy John Arthur Greene.
holidays. I believe I've missed each and every face. Come on and play one easy. Let's turn on every love light in the place. It's time I found myself totally surrounded in your circles. Oh, my friends. Please celebrate me home. Give me a number, please. Celebrate me home. Play me one more song that I'll always remember, that I can recall whenever I find myself too all alone. I can sing me home. Uneasy highway, traveling where the westerly winds can fly. Somebody tried to tell me, but that man forgot to tell me why. I gotta count on being gone. Come on, mama, and come on, daddy, and please, what do you want from me? I'll be strong, I'll be weak, yeah. Please celebrate me home. Give me a number, please. Celebrate me home. Play me one more song that I'll always remember, that I can recall whenever I find myself too all alone. I can make believe I've never gone. Let me know where I am alone. Sing me home, celebrate me home. Give me a number, please. Celebrate me home. Play me one more song, y'all. Finally here, but I'm bound to roam. Come on and celebrate me home. Well, I'm finally here, but I'm bound to roam. Come on and celebrate me home. Well, I'm finally here, but I'm bound to roam. Come on and celebrate me home. Well, I'm finally here, but I'm bound to roam. Come on and celebrate me home.
And now, for another treat, we have an original piece written and performed by John Arthur Greene. Enjoy.
Mama lives by the Bible. Bible lives by her bed. Swore that daddy's a good man. Daddy ran instead. I grew up in the country, a Carolina home. Farm girls and green tractors, plenty of space to roam. What would I give to go back home? What would I give to go back home? Where the fireworks fly on the 4th of July, looking up towards a southern sky. Where I fell in love, then I asked the God above to save her from this world, 'cause she my Carolina girl. I remember sitting on the front porch at dawn, trying to figure out this place. Where did I go wrong? So I moved to the city just to find some peace of mind. What I came to find was just a waste of time. What would I give to go back home? What would I give to go back home? Where the fireworks fly on the 4th of July, looking up towards the southern sky. Where I fell in love, then I asked the God above to save her from this world, 'cause she my Carolina girl. Yeah, I'll save her from this world, 'cause she my Carolina girl.
We hope you have enjoyed this look behind the curtain at some backstage elements which helped North Carolina Theater create Broadway in your backyard. Join us again next time for more looks backstage at NCT.